sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Animal Magnetism, exploring animal care for creatures great and small, conservation and preservation in today's world. Find out what a single voice can do to make a difference in the lives of animals. Animal Magnetism with Carolyn Hennesy starts right now on UBN Radio.
And welcome once again, animal preservationists, conservationists, those of you trying to develop the preservationist heart, as I call it. We still don't have a new opening theme song, and I would like one. I put that out there about, 2 or 3, 4 shows ago, because while I enjoy Simon and Garfunkel's At the Zoo, there is that line.
Right.
What, the monkeys stand for honesty, the giraffes are insincere, and the elephants are kindly, but they're dumb. Wrong.
Nope.
Wrong, and yet again I say wrong, because the elephant is one of the 4 smartest animals on the planet. That may be a trivia question.
Ooh.
What are the other 3? But listeners, if anyone is interested in composing something and getting their work, of course you have to give us the rights to use it. But you wouldn't send it in if you didn't, I don't think, right?
Correct.
I'm very excited, not only because I am joined by my fabulous co-host, Miss Andrea Compton.
Hello.
Hello. But there's a change in the air, don't you think?
First day of autumn.
The first day, the equinox.
Oh.
The equinox was yesterday, last night, I believe. Okay. Where the days, and so now we are heading into, we just started today by microseconds, we are heading into the shorter days. But you can really change it. You can tell. It's not like New England, where everything drops off the trees and everything's orange and yellow. We have a caller calling in already.
Yes, I think it's the guest.
Oh, it's our guest. Well, hang on. Our guest needs to just hang on. And what a guest she is.
I know.
She needs to hang on for just a second because I've got to get to news and views.
Yes.
But now I'm being rushed. Okay. I was finding myself so fascinating there for a moment. Okay. And guess what I'm going to try and do? I'm going to do this without my glasses. Because I've made the font very big.
Oh.
Auntie Carolyn usually needs her glasses, but she's going to try it without.
Okay.
News and views, listeners. This is really interesting. It's really horrifying, and I hope all the men out here and the women who love them and support them on game day are taking serious heed. While football fans were busy discussing week 2 of the 2013 pro football season, PETA, whom I normally do not support because they are activists, while this is an advocacy show, but PETA, something really good here, challenged the sports community by talking about what it suggests is a different NFL-sponsored pastime, animal testing, in NFL-funded medical research. With the launch of a new campaign initiative, Unnecessary Roughness, PETA told supporters that the NFL's funding to research athletic injuries is no game for the laboratory animals involved. In a press release, PETA says the NFL has, quote, quietly funded horrific and deadly sports injury experiments on dogs, mice, rats, and other animals at Harvard University, the University of Pennsylvania, the University of California, Los Angeles, shame, and the University of Notre Dame, and other schools and private laboratories. In February, PETA's Justin Goodman, director of the Laboratory Investigations Department, first contacted NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, citing numerous NFL-sponsored medical studies that PETA claimed used animal testing. Goodman told the Huffington Post that he was hoping to open up a dialogue privately about NFL funding. Studies cited in PETA's letter included a University of Gothenburg study which repeatedly concussed mice to imitate brain injuries, as well as a Vanderbilt study that states laboratory dogs were given lesions to the knee to imitate sports injuries, and researchers subsequently sacrificed the dogs so scientists could study the results. The NFL never responded to PETA's February letter. Goodman said PETA decided to renew its efforts in the wake of the NFL's late August lawsuit settlement against some 4,500 injured former and current NFL players, After the league agreed to a nearly $400 million settlement fee, $10 million of which will specifically go to medical research, PETA urged fans to tell the NFL not to fund more animal testing. It seems what the science field celebrates as visionary, animal activists and advocates see as abuse. While the ethical quandary continues to play out, it remains to be seen whether the NFL will change its funding habits. Why do they need to abuse animals when they've got 4,500 players?
Documented.
Yes. They've got 4,500 players with brain injuries.
Mm-hmm.
What? You're going to make the helmets safer? Okay, fine. You've got 4,500 documented cases that show you how to make it. I mean, I'm sure that there are medical reports on all 4,500 of those injuries.
Yes.
Why do you need to torment animals? It is disgusting. That is my view. And there will be no Super Bowl watching for me, and I hope everyone within the sound of my voice who is listening, who watches a football game, who cares. I mean, obviously, if you're listening to this show, you care about animals. You can also love football, but write a freaking letter. So there. Side note to news and views, my source close to the news of the Clinton Global Initiative and their efforts to thwart the elephant poaching crisis recently had this to say, falling under the heading of don't really know anything, pure speculation. Quote, we've heard substantiated rumors that there will be major announcements soon of a coordinated global effort to end the wildlife poaching crisis in afflicted Africa. I'm also hoping for Thailand, but that's just, we got baby steps. In the White House forum last week, we could see that major organizations, both governmental, Justice, Interior, State, and NGO, World Wildlife Fund, are literally at the table together. There is something like unanimity. I need to start drinking coffee. On the sequence of actions required, stop killing by deploying additional resources across the continent, interdict the smuggling by a combination of naming and shaming corrupt government officials, and amp up the global effort to reduce demand through public education. That's what we know. The rest is speculation. But boy, howdy, ain't that good news. Mm-hmm. That is just such good news. So we had bad news today and we had good news today. So everyone take note, take heed, do some research. Okay, now it's time. Yes. Ms. Lori Weise, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
How
Thank you for
excited!
having me.
We are so excited to have you. Basically, the jewel in your crown is that you are the founder and president of Downtown Dog Rescue, which has been in operation since 1996. So, first, tell everyone out there who doesn't already know about Downtown Dog Rescue all about it.
Thank you. Well, we are a nonprofit organization that believes that people and dogs deserve a second chance. So we really focus not only on rescuing shelter dogs in need, we also focus on keeping dogs out of the shelter. We run a program called the South L.A. Shelter Intervention Program, which to date, since it started in April of this year, it's kept 1,200 pets out of the shelter by offering various services, medical care and fostering and just a whole bunch of great things. And then we have a kennel where we promote play and teach dogs how to play with other dogs.
Yay.
And teach the adopters how to keep their dogs social and be very involved in their dogs' lives. So we're really all about loving people and pets and trying to empower the community.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's say this is a scenario. Someone has adopted a dog, or has rescued a dog, or has a dog, and this dog is just not blending in. It's a bit of a problem dog. They're perhaps marking in the house. They're not social. They can bring that dog to you instead of dumping them either on the street or at a shelter, even if it's a no-kill shelter. They can bring that dog to you, and you will help rehabilitate, retrain, reorient the dog. This is what you do.
We're a pretty small organization, and right now our focus is really in the South L.A.
Right.
Southeast community.
Okay.
But we do get a lot of people from all over the Los Angeles area that have adopted or rescued a dog or whatever, and because we've been working with dogs, and mostly it's a lot of pit bulls and a lot of big dogs, and that's, I feel a lot of times that's really what needs the most help, is getting those large breed dogs out of the shelter. So we do everything we can to, keep the dog in the home and get through the rough spots like you're talking about. And we have a great team of volunteers that a lot of times they don't even need to come see us. They just need somebody to talk to get through the bad day. And then, we just say, hey, hold on, we've been there too. And, give it another week. And it's sometimes all people need is just someone to talk to. We found that is a lot of times you're just having a really bad day with that dog.
You have a bit of a crisis hotline.
Yes,
That's
we do.
Wonderful. Let me talk about some of the other things that you do at the South L.A. shelter. Free medical training. Free medical training, fence and gate, home repairs to keep dogs in the yards, rehoming services, dog licenses, pet deposits, tenant mediation, whatever it takes to help the pet owner keep the pet in their first home, making it a forever home. What a fabulous tribute. Lauren, let me ask you a question. Because I do know that southeast, south central Los Angeles, very keen on the pit bulls. They enjoy having them, and then they don't enjoy having them, and then they dump them, and that's what those shelters, also the Van Nuys shelter, big pit bull drop-off points. How many dogs and cats would you say are homeless now on the streets of Los Angeles? What would you, or the streets of South Central Los Angeles? Do you have those numbers?
I don't. But I can tell you, which is a really positive thing from doing this for so many years. I can tell you the streets, even though somebody driving in South L.A. or in Watts or whatever right now is going to say it's bad, it's not nearly as bad as it was even 10 years ago.
Wow.
So I think that all the seeds that we planted on, L.A. is pretty amazing that it has 4 mobile spay and neuter clinics, and all of them offering free services to people that are most in need, that have dogs and cats. It's still, there's a lot that we can do, but I think that we have to really stay positive and look at what's been accomplished to kind of be energized to keep on going and just pushing forward every day.
If someone in those critical areas, southeast, south central Los Angeles, has a dog and simply cannot afford to spay or neuter that dog, they can go online or they can call you, and I believe we're going to have those links up, Downtown Dog Rescue, and they can make an appointment and come in and get that dog spayed or neutered at no cost.
That's correct.
That's wonderful, because
I
sometimes,
was going to say there's so many services. The city of Los Angeles, if the person is truly low income and lives in Los Angeles, the city of LA has a voucher program where they can take that voucher and go to a veterinarian, make an appointment, and get the spay or neuter free. But a lot of times what you said is go online. A lot of people don't have access to online. So
Exactly.
That's why we're at the shelter, and that's why we're out in the community and the parks and getting the information out there.
Right. This show is a podcast. It's online. So if anyone who does have access to this show knows of someone who does not have access to this show, and who has a pet that needs to be spayed or neutered or needs any of these services that we talked about, please get this information to them. Let's talk about pets and poverty. Do you see one of the things that I see a great deal are the homeless individuals with pets, and do you see a lot of that coming into the shelter? Or into the South LA shelter?
We see a lot of people, more people in what I would call in transition, where we're working on a case starting last night, and they move very fast. We have like 48 hours. There's a family living in their car with their 11-year-old dog. So it's not that there's a big difference between somebody that's chronically homeless, the man that you see at the gas station for 20 years every time you pump gas,
Sure.
and he always has his dog with him. that's somebody that's choosing to live outside and it's a lifestyle, versus somebody that I would say, when I define homelessness, it's somebody that truly is looking for a home and something really tragic happened in their life. In this case, it was a case of divorce and lack of savings, and there's just so many families, including, my family growing up, we just really live paycheck to paycheck, and it's a lot of luck, that you don't end up in that situation.
Right.
So, not everyone is as blessed as I am and have a great job and be able to make choices. So that's why, at the South L.A. shelter, we focus so much on the poverty aspect and not so much on that we need to educate. I mean, that we need to do, but there's such pressing issues as feeding the family first and then being able to feed the dog second. So if we can provide the free dog food and just keep you going till next week, and then maybe you need to come back and visit with us again. So we see a lot of people more, I would say, in transition. They're moving from here to there, and they just need a place for the dog for a week, a month at the most.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. That's fantastic.
The Downtown Dog Rescue is housed at the South L.A. shelter, but you're not on staff there. There is a full-time interventionist.
We all need coffee.
I know.
We all need coffee.
Serious. That works 5 days a week, DDT, and 1 day a week. You guys have a group of volunteers who run the program, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Our office, we use an office within the shelter. Our organization, actually, we have a kennel, and that I'm so happy to announce we just bought a property in Southgate where we're building
Wonderful.
a whole resource center, and our dogs will be there for adoption, and some of these dogs will be able to house them and keep them safe until their owners can take them back. So that's a project that's ongoing. But our South LA Shelter Intervention Program, it's super terrific, and Found Animals Foundation pays for the salary for the interventionist, so we're not paying a salary since our group is all volunteers, and it's an amazing program that it's not just Downtown Dog Rescue, it's lots of other groups all help us, and it's really coming together and, again, empowering the community and bringing them the resources they need.
Here's a question that's, I think it's on topic, but it's a little, it might be a little odd. That area, South Central, Southeast LA, dogfighting, big dogfighting area. If someone, are you a no questions asked kind of sort of place? In other words, if someone has a dog that's been in a dogfight and that dog needs medical attention, could they bring that animal to you? I would love to say prosecute them on the spot, but in service to the animal, could they bring that animal to you and with no repercussions?
Well, first I would ask, how do you know that area has so much dog fighting? Because I think that's a big misconception.
Really? Okay,
yeah,
then enlighten us.
Yeah, that was true in the late 80s and in the 90s, but it's really, the whole population has shifted. So many of the people, I'm not going to say that everybody that moved to Moreno Valley and out to Lancaster and Palmdale is fighting dogs, but the majority of the dog fighting cases that you'll see now are coming out of Palmdale, Lancaster. It's in the news, and that's really, I'm sure there is some dog fighting, but it's just not something that we see. It's very sad. I think most of the animal cruelty cases that I've seen, that I've been involved in, they're people that get either overwhelmed, they didn't spay and neuter, and it's large dogs, and now they have 20 dogs, and they're doing the best they can, and I'm not making any kind of concessions for them because what they're doing is totally wrong. But the dogs get mange and sickness and things like that. We will help them to an extent, but we do really follow what the laws that are set up and things like that, and work with the officer.
Okay, good to know. So it's not there can be repercussions, but basically, but it's basically all in the interest of caring for the animal.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Now, do you have any plans to spread the dog rescue, the South LA dog rescue, to other parts of the community? Let's say Lancaster, because they obviously need you.
Yeah. We're pretty small. I mean, we go from the South LA area, and we go down into Compton, and we run. That's another part of our organization, is we have spayed about 5,000. Going this year, it'll be closer to 6,000 dogs in the park in Compton. So we really stay. We're pretty grassroots, and we're a small organization. So I don't foresee us going out to Lancaster. There's a definite need out there.
Sure.
But we just all kind of live in the San Gabriel Valley and in Los Angeles.
So as it stands now, there are no plans to expand, but you'd like to if
sure.
the funds were there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the manpower, because it really, I think it's one thing to want to do something for a community, but I think there's a lot of power in actually working and living and being part of the community to really get them involved, because it's, if we really analyze this is not a pet problem, and if it's addressed that way, I think we're going to just keep banging our heads against the wall and rescue. But if we understand that this is a lack of resources and really a lack of information in the general public, and in animal welfare, we all want to spay and neuter and do all these great things, but a lot of times that message just keeps bouncing back and forth amongst all of us, and it doesn't get out.
Preaching to the choir, as it were.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yes, yeah.
Sure. So you can probably give yourselves a pat on the back for perhaps decreasing the dog fighting, sending it to other less well-informed areas. I mean, of just even a small pat on the back, because you are getting that information out there.
Yeah.
Well,
but,
I'm patting you on the back.
Yeah, I will take it, but I think it has more to do with the 3 strikes law. That made a huge change in Los Angeles, and a big impact, and I can't say it's all positive, but it did arrest a lot of people and put a lot of men and a lot of black and brown men in prison for life for a very long time. So you just take a lot of men out of one area, and you have a lot of fatherless children, and the demographic shifts, and that's kind of what's happened. And I think that had the biggest impact on dog fighting than anything else.
Amazing.
Oh. Let's talk about the Race for the Rescues, which is your next fundraiser coming up.
Yes. Yeah, that is going to happen on Sunday, October 6th. And we are racing to raise funds for the South L.A. Shelter Intervention Project and just our general rescuing of shelter dogs. Invite everybody to come out and support us, and we're looking for more people that want to run a short 5K run or walk. I think I'll be walking.
Yes.
I won't be running.
Listen,
most of my dogs are senior dogs. So
yes. That's good, Lori. Blame it on the dogs. That's good. Good for you. Good girl.
Yeah. All the information's up on our website, and also we invite everybody to like us on Facebook and stay updated as to what's going on with that exciting and really fun fundraiser that we're doing.
We have all the links on the Animal Magnetism page. We will keep them up there, and everyone, please go participate, run, walk, donate, volunteer if you're in the area, and help this fantastic organization out. Lori, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was wonderful talking to you, and amazing information that you gave us. New information, good to know, and hopefully we'll talk at you again soon.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
And we are going to take a break, but stay with us here on Animal Magnetism. So much more to come. Oh, one of my favorite people coming up, my favorite people in the world. Don't go away. Okay, I actually happen to know just a little bit about what's coming up in this next segment. It's Maureen Flanagan's Vegan Teas, and we're dealing with cauliflower. We're dealing with something that, could wreak a little havoc on the system. So only make this for ones you love. Or if you're alone, or if you really want to get rid of that second date, just then you can make this. Take it away.
Well, friends, don't worry about your gas. Gas is a natural part of life. By the way, the cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, etc., including beans, that's not a cruciferous vegetable, but once you cook them, it starts to break down those.
Okay.
The parts that make you flatulent.
Most of my boyfriends didn't know that. The breakdown took a little longer.
But I highly recommend, if you've not gone to, this is my homage to Veggie Grill, whom I'm just in love with that that franchise.
The Veggie Grill.
I am in love with that. They've done it right. If you are a full-fledged meat eater, please go there. People go and have burgers there all the time. It will knock your socks off.
I've been. I was wowed.
It's wowing.
Yeah.
It really is. They do it right. So this is inspired by their cauliflower mashed potatoes and gravy. The thing that I've done here is I've added jalapeno and corn to the gravy to give it a little hot ta-ta-ta-ta to it.
Do that again.
Hot ta-ta-ta-ta.
Hot ta-ta-ta-ta. Ah. Okay. All right. Jalapenos.
And we use mushrooms. It's a mushroom gravy with corn and jalapeno. It's delicious. It's delicious.
You know
I
what,
mean, mashed potatoes are so soothing and delicious, and you add a little vitamins too when you add the cauliflower and some fiber, as we were talking about earlier.
Sure. Well, you got me at gravy. You got me at gravy. Okay, everybody, you know where to go to find this. The Animal Magnetism page at www.ubnradio.com. Go get some. And we are back, listeners. And once again, I'm going to read this whole thing with no glasses.
Okay.
And I almost don't even really need to read it because I have known our next guest, who happens to be in studio. Yay! 20 years, Shon?
Yeah,
20 years?
I think about 20 years.
20 years, and I will tell the tale.
Okay.
After I read your bio, I will tell the story. Oh, costumer, wardrobe master extraordinaire. What he doesn't know about the world of wardrobe and costumes isn't important and doesn't need to be known. Shon Le Blonc, costume designer, celebrates his 28th year. Well, I just knew you. I met you when you were a pup.
Exactly.
28th year designing costumes in Los Angeles and around the United States, Ashlawn Opera in Virginia, and Kentucky Shakespeare, to name but a few. Primarily a theater designer, he's won dramalogues, countless. I've been there when he's won. He walks on stage in his kilt. It's just stunning. He's won Garland Awards, Drama Critics Circle Awards, Ovation Awards. Yay! He has also ventured into film. No God, No Master, Wasabi Tuna. I must see that. Angels with Angles, Angels with Angles, and Lobster Man from Mars. Yay. Just a critic's darling. And he teaches. He's created a costume design class for the Academy of Art College in San Francisco. He is the owner of Valentino's Costumes and the co-owner of the Costume House in North Hollywood, starting its 4th year in business. Now, I'm going to tell you just very quickly, because this has nothing to do with animals, but it's really funny. It's a little glimpse into my world and my brain. I met Shon doing a production of Dangerous Liaisons. I was playing La Marquise. And at one point, La Marquise comes on stage wearing nothing but, fabulous French underwear, including a corset, which I had on upside down and backwards.
Amazing.
I was wearing my corset, and I think you saw it towards the end of the run, so I'd been wearing it for the entire time, upside down and backwards, and I still have that corset. But then Shon very graciously and eloquently came up to me afterwards and said, "You've been wearing your corset upside down." Naturally, that all changed. And my performance changed. It got better. Once I put the corset on right side up and frontwards. Oh, my darling. Your current projects are a production of The Royal Family at Theatricum Botanicum here in Los Angeles, in Topanga Canyon, and Wilderness at the Actors Co-op. But you're here to discuss something really interesting and animal-related, of course. Welcome, my darling. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. All right. Fur. Let us discuss the role of fur, vintage fur, the role of fur in television, film, and on stage, and the place for new fur, for faux fur. We will refer to it as faux on the show, not fake. All right. First of all, when did fake fur arrive on the scene? When was that first created, and why? Was it simply a reaction to the expense of regular fur, or was there even back then, I'm assuming it was many, many years ago, a hue and cry with regard to animal rights? So tell us.
I think it probably started in the late 40s, early 50s, specifically because you wanted to have a fur coat, a mink coat, or a mink stole. And many people couldn't afford that, so the next option was to do a fake stole or a fake coat. And I believe that's where the first fake fur started to come in.
And do you know where or how it came on the scene, where it first, or I mean, like in New York, Paris, London, Los Angeles? Was this an international thing?
I think it was probably international because there was such demand for things. And you had movies like Lady Wants a Mink from the 50s.
Right.
And you wanted to be a successful man in business or whatever to give your wife a mink coat or a mink stole. And if you couldn't afford that, the next best thing was a fake mink. And then it sort of becomes this fashion icon statement. I can have a real mink and I can also have a fake mink, and a fake mink is just okay as a real mink. It's not as perfect, but you can still have that allure of glamour with the fake.
There was a whole I Love Lucy episode.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, first of all, there was the episode where he buys her the stone martens. I
Yep.
didn't even know what stone martens were.
Foxes.
Foxes.
Yeah.
Stone marten foxes. And he buys her the stone martens, but then he buys her, or she thinks he's going to buy her a mink. And he buys her the fake, and she cuts it up, and it's, the hilarious hijinks. But, no one had any problem
No.
with Lucy having a real mink coat.
Well, you have a country that's actually based on the fur trade with the Hudson Bay Company and trapping beavers.
course.
So our fur trade goes back to the founding of this country.
Before then,
Yeah.
the indigenous people,
Yeah.
the Injuns.
Yes, and they actually used every part of the animal they killed, unlike you get into the 1800s with the millionaires and people from Europe coming over and shooting buffalo riding in a train because it's such great sport, to the fact where we almost wipe out these herds that would take days to pass, when a herd would go by, to, a handful of buffalo.
Right.
And now, thank God, they're coming
The
back.
bison are making a comeback. Indeed,
Yeah,
indeed.
which is fabulous.
The fur trade, of course.
Mm-hmm.
What, to the best of your knowledge, is fake fur comprised of?
Probably a lot of acrylic. It's all like polyester, acrylic, rayon, stuff like that.
Now, when they first started making it, though, what was it comprised of? Because, we didn't have those polymers, those combinations.
You had some of that
Did you?
because of the war. You got things out of the war like rayons and things like that. So the synthetics, because of World War II, you get those synthetic things coming out, and you get nylon, which is like the new fabric, which actually is from the 30s.
But women had to give up their nylons to make parachutes.
Well, they gave up their silk stockings.
Oh, they gave up their silks. Oh, to make silk
Yes.
parachutes.
And then
that's
then you got nylon.
and then you got nylons.
Which is a new fabric.
I'm learning so much on this show today, I can't even stand it.
And you can actually tell the difference between the different period furs by the quality of the fur.
Really?
Yeah.
And you have at the shop different periods of fake fur.
Yeah, there's some stuff. We've got several 50s stoles. There's some really horrible 60s and 70s fur coats. They are just horrendous. And then there's some later stuff from the 80s and 90s and some contemporary pieces that are actually pretty good.
I have fake fur. I will not wear real fur, even though a very dear friend of mine gave me her mother's mink stole. Well, what was she going to do? I would say she wasn't going to wear it, and I hadn't really developed the preservationist heart that I have developed now. I hadn't developed it then, but even then I thought, well, this is sort of odd, and I've never worn it, and I never will. What do you suggest we do with the real fur? If anyone has a real fur hanging in the closet, they're not responsible for it.
No.
They didn't slaughter that animal, and let's say it's vintage. What would you suggest they do with it? I asked this question of somebody with regard to ivory just the other day, and they said, offer up a prayer, offer up thanks to the animal that died, that gave it, and then use it, because if you don't use it, then in a way that animal has died for nothing. So what would you suggest?
Well, I tend to agree with it. You have issues, I think, with people wearing furs on the streets. I have no issue with vintage fur because these things have been dead for a long time. They came from a time that was the style of things that we did in America, Europe, all over the world. If you're not comfortable with it, I would say donate it to a costume shop because we can use them. They'll be used in theater and film and TV and stuff to recreate an era. I would not say destroy it because then there's one less thing there and someone then will go out and then replace it with something new. And we don't want to replace with something new. We want to replace with something that's vintage.
Excellent
And
advice.
if we can repurpose it, say that you're trying to do a Renaissance costume. This actually happened. There was a girl who went to a yard sale and she bought a couple of matching mink stoles, brought them back, and a friend of ours, Jeff Schomburg, who you know, repurposed them as fur trim on her Renaissance costume. So it was not taking new fur and making something out of them. We took old furs, recycled them, and repurposed them, and made them into the trim on her Renaissance dress.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Just give us a rundown. We all know mink, we know sable, we know fox. What are the main the poor little animals? What are the main sources of fur?
You have all sorts of things. You've got lynx, you've got chinchilla, which is amazing. You have sable, ermine, which is the white coat of the weasels and things and stuff that actually do the minks and things. You have the marten foxes, bear paw, squirrel, Persian lamb.
Now that
There's a Danish fox, which is gorgeous. Monkey, which you can no longer get. Monkey is actually a fur you cannot get anymore.
Thank God.
It's amazingly gorgeous, and the old gorilla and monkey, and they're like spider monkeys and gorilla were used for these. And then you also had the rarest of them, which were the white versions, which are beautiful but very, very expensive, and you cannot get those because they're endangered.
Good. I'm glad you can't get them. Now a Persian lamb, the lamb didn't need to be sacrificed for this coat. It just needed to be sheared. Or is that not correct?
It's the tight curly hair on the,
so
on
then
the
yes,
skin.
it did.
So it was probably a two-purpose. But again, it's probably a two-purpose. It was probably harvested for not only the fur but also for the meat.
For sure. Indeed, yes.
Yeah. And if you're going to do a leather product, like you're going to slaughter a pig, then you're going to hopefully be able to use all that as well as the meat and the things like this, and use the pig skin for leather and so forth.
Can you fake any of the animals that you just named? Can you fake any type of fur?
I've seen some good fakes. Yes, there's a company that does really fabulous fake mink or fake fur coats, beautiful, beautiful coats, in the tunes of like. Lynx, and I've seen like leopard and mink and things like that. So there's some beautiful, beautiful fake furs.
Is it difficult to work with?
I think it's actually easier to work with than real pelts. I think if you talk to people who work, like we have people in the shop that work with fur, have worked with fur and leather and fake fur. Fake fur does get up your nose when you cut it, where the real fur doesn't so much. But I think it's probably a little bit easier as far as the sewing process, because there's a specific way you have to sew the fur, and you need someone who's actually done that.
Wow. Mm-hmm. When you get a piece into the costume house and it consists of real fur, and you may have actually just already answered this. I was going to say, what's the first thing that goes through your head? Do you ever think of replacing the real fur with a more PC fake fur? But if you can repurpose.
Yeah. I usually look at it, and we just got 2 new pieces in on Saturday, as a matter of fact.
Tell us about
Friday.
them.
They came from a collection, and one is a silver fox jacket, and the other is monkey fur. And monkey fur coat.
Oh, I think I'm getting a headache. Wow. To even think about how that was accessed.
Yeah.
How that was slaughtered. But it's beautiful.
Oh,
well,
it's
monkeys
gorgeous.
are beautiful.
Oh, they're gorgeous. And I mean, you have to appreciate what these pieces are and the artistry that went into them. I think that's part of it. I think it's anything you look at that we tend not to use anymore, be it fur or be it hats or be it whatever. You have to understand the amount of artistry someone had to do to make that piece.
And it was specifically of a time where this global consciousness with regard to preservation, conservation, treating animals correctly with love and respect and dignity was not.
No.
I mean, no one really had it.
Oh no, there was no sense of that. Animals were there for a purpose for us to utilize. This goes back to whaling with getting the whale bones for the corsets and the whale oil for lamps. It goes back to our very beginning of this is our food source, and we have draft animals like horses and cows, the domestics. We have the dogs and the cats to protect us and to keep the vermin down, things like that.
The pigs and the sheep for meat.
Chickens, geese, ducks, all that stuff it's all part of what we know. And you talk to farm people and they're like, "What's your problem? You're from the city." And it's like, "Don't you understand? This is what life is about." And you have the extremes of things being taken to a fashion sense, which is where we've taken the fur, but originally for warmth.
I was walking, I think I was 10 years old, 12 years old, and I was in New York. during the winter, and it was a family trip to see much theater. And my aunt Barbara, had a number of fur coats because it was
Cold.
It was the style,
Yeah.
it was the period, and it was cold. And I remember her giving me a fox coat to walk down Fifth Avenue. And it saved me. To this day, I think that it saved me. It was a real fox fur, and I was warm. I wasn't just comfortable walking down Fifth Avenue. I was warm. I got it. I understood.
Yeah.
Would never do it now. Never ever do it now. I would layer up, or I'd stay inside, or I'd call a cab. But I would never wear that. But you talk about the farmer who doesn't understand what the big deal is about fur. Fur, fake fur. Why are you city folks so anti? That farmer probably to this day still uses every part of that animal, which
Exactly.
is what we did.
Yeah.
We needed every part of that animal.
Well, yeah, that's where it all comes from. Is you're not wasting, and we definitely the repurposing term is something we use a lot at the costume house, because we take a garment that says, oh, this was a 1960s dress. It's lovely. It will never rent as what it is. Okay, now it's a fabulous Victorian vest. We repurpose the pieces, and the fur is the same thing.
Certainly.
If we can utilize the fur, maybe there's a damage on something and the pelt's actually pretty good, we can go ahead and reutilize that and put it on trim so it actually looks good and looks right, because some fake furs still look really bad, and there are some that are really beautiful. I mean, I think you've seen the chinchilla on that big collar that's on the 20s coat.
Yes.
There's a 20s cape that we put something on. But that was $50 a yard fake fur from Paris. And I actually had a friend of mine whose father was a furrier, and he walked in and went, oh, that's sprayed. And I said, no, that's fake. So to actually have a furrier's son think that it was real fur was actually pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can do it. We are capable of it.
Yeah. Do you ever work with directors, producers, or actors who absolutely demand to have real fur?
I've never worked with ones that demand to have real fur. I have ones who don't want to wear real fur.
Okay.
The opposite. Excellent.
Yeah, and
Good.
and one, Roxanne Barker, and Roxanne is wonderful, and she is very much anti-fur. But for me, in Dinner at 8, she actually wore fake fur. She says, I know that I don't like this, but I'm going to do it because it's for you.
And because it's
because the period.
Exactly. Exactly. Which is why, would anyone ever insist on using real fur because it was the period? But is there ever a case when you would insist on using real fur? And can you think of one?
Well, I use real fur a lot on stage and film because if I'm recreating an era in which that is the fashion, that's the thing. And you need to have someone come in that's glamorous, and you need to have that look, and it just works.
Okay, now let's talk about audiences. Is there ever, with the preservation, conservation, I'm just going to, it's the PC movement, the preservation and conservation movement. The PC movement, as we understand it, it's growing ever stronger. Is there any type of real fur that you think audiences would still accept? Or do they accept it? Do they accept all of it?
We were having this conversation earlier. We've had shows like I've done Wisdom of Eve, where we had all kinds of fur. When we did the women, we had 14 types of furs in the show. I think it was a pound of jewelry and a petting zoo in the show. And we did a disclaimer in Eve and said, look, these are real furs. They're from the period. They're nothing new. There was never an issue. By the time we got to the women, we did not do that disclaimer. And even on both shows and the other shows I've done where we have fur in the show, people come up to me and say, oh my God, they are gorgeous. I have my mother's, I have mine, I have my aunt's. I wish I could wear it.
I wish I could wear it, because they see it being depicted for 2.5 hours, a certain style on stage. They're watching it. They love it. They feel the glamour coming off the stage, and yet they know they can't wear it on the street.
They know that they just can't. It's not something they can
What do you say when someone comes up to you and says that? What do you say to them backstage? Do you say, okay, you know what? Don't if you're not comfortable wearing it, or say a prayer for the animal that died and wear it?
I usually tell them I'm very thankful they enjoyed what we're doing, and I said everything here mostly was killed before I was born. which is one thing. And I'm glad they appreciate what they did. And if they're uncomfortable, we're more than happy to take a donation.
Take a donation. Genius.
Oh my gosh. If you were costuming a show in China or Russia, would you do it differently for Weise versus what you do here in the United States?
I don't think so. I know that most of those countries, this is not an issue. When you get out to different places, it's because of the weather has a lot to do with it, and you need to stay warm. So it's not an issue for them. It's what part of life is, and you see those things. And as a side note, you do know that Los Angeles is the perfect place to wear a fur coat.
No, why?
Because it's not wet, and it's not damp. It's chilly, and it's the perfect place to wear the coat because the coat will not get messed up in the weather.
Now this is not a go out and wear your fur coat.
No.
We're just saying that were this 100 years ago, Los Angeles would be the perfect place to wear a fur coat.
Where this was 1950.
If this were 1950. Okay. Now, I have a wonderful little consignment shop that I go to and I frequent. She is just kind of go through her stuff. This is in Studio City. Couture Exchange. I just plugged her on the show. She is Russian.
Mm-hmm.
Her clientele, mostly Russian emigres.
Yes.
Their taste is so exquisite, it makes your head spin. You've got the Prada, you've got the Ralph Lauren, you've got you name it, and these women wear these things twice.
Mm-hmm.
Fur. There's a lot of fur.
Oh, yes.
So would you say that fur is still the status symbol that it once was in everywhere or just in certain countries? And I'm wondering if there's any shift that you see.
You're seeing a shift back to fur, actually.
Really?
I was downtown about a year and a half ago, and one of the places I go into had some of the most, exquisite fox capes that you've seen, and they were Sunday going to church capes. They were bright red, they were blue, they were green. They had panels down with rhinestones set in.
Real fur.
Real fur. And they were beautifully made. They were exquisite. And I thought if I was doing that period show to be able to turn this into something for like a Funny Girl or one of those Fabulous 30 shows, this would be, this is what you want to see her coming in and singing in the rain. You want to see her in this. You want to see her in that coat.
Your desire to help animals, your desire to does it affect the way you costume someone who is portraying someone who is extremely wealthy? If you can get away with fake fur, will you?
It has to be a really good fake fur, and I do have a really fabulous 8-foot long white mink that's fake with in a lining with sequins in it and stuff, and it's really wonderful, and I use that quite a lot, and it's actually in Funny Girl right now.
Do you think modern audiences are more forgiving of fake fur?
Funny Girl.
I don't know. I think there are people who don't pay attention to it, and I think there are people who do, because if you look at something like The Shadow, which all the fur was fake in there because the director insisted on it, it looks like fake fur.
Does it?
It does.
Does it?
Yeah. You look at John Lone coming out of the floor in that beautiful Chinese robe trimmed in fake fur. It looks like fake fur.
It looks like fake fur to you. Mm-hmm. To you, because your eye is keen and well honed and well trained. Yeah. Would it look like fake fur to everyone else sitting here?
It may not. Anybody who's I think it's in the business or knows something about this says, "Oh, it looks like fake fur." I think that with the digital technology, we're getting screwed because you're really going to be able to tell it's fake. That's another problem.
But is that a bad thing? Is that a bad thing? Considering
yes, HD is a bad thing.
Well, considering where we want to go in terms of not killing animals for their fur, because we don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
We got Gore-Tex. Is that a bad thing?
It's a bad thing because you're going to be able to tell it's fake fur to the umpth degree that it looks fake. It's going to look so fake. You're going to say that looks fake because film is very forgiving. Film will take the fake fur and you can really pass it looking like that it's a real fur or it's intended to be fake. When you get into the HD, which is not my favorite thing in the world, it shows every blemish. I mean, I'm surprised that more actors and actresses haven't said you're shooting in HD, don't count me in.
Well, we need to pay our mortgage.
Yeah, but it's the thing where you can take a set piece, like a desk that may have some rough edges on it. On film, it looks like it's brilliant.
Right.
On HD, it literally looks like it's out of someone's junk shop. And it can be a $10,000 desk, but if there's anything on it, it's going to look that bad. Because HD brings out all the flaws,
Right.
which doesn't help us in costuming
Right.
in any way, shape, or form.
Specifically with fur, though, I am wondering, I'm just extrapolating here, I'm trying to think big picture, if everything is fake fur, the shadow,
Yeah.
and you see that, and we, even as the layperson, understands, oh my gosh, that's fake fur. How cool. Everyone's wearing fake fur. No animals were killed. Even the mindset of this movie, this television show, they're not using they're not using real fur. That's great. It doesn't help you with your vintage pieces,
No.
but it's...
But I think what the backlash from that was through the designers in Hollywood is like, oh my God, that looks so bad.
Really?
We can't do that. And anytime anyone says, oh, let's use fake, they go, well, look at the shadow. And so it became a backlash kind of thing.
God. Will you come on the show again
I'd love to.
and talk more about stuff?
Of course.
Fur?
And little
Fur
animals.
and little animals and skins and furry things and
like a little gimlet.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Maybe you can bring you can bring Gimlet in. Maybe. And will you wear your kilt the next time?
Of course.
Oh, I like the cut of your leg, cut of your jib, Mister. If everyone, just even if you're not interested in costuming a show, go to, we've got links to Valentino's and Costume House up on the Animal Magnetism website. Just go and look. You know what? Drop by. They love it when you drop by. They love it when I drop by. And see some of the amazing pieces that they have. It's a short jaunt, but it's worth it. And you are on Facebook, the Costume House. We've got your Twitter handle. It will all be posted. Shon Le Blonc, one of my favorite people, and you put me in the dress that won me the ovation. I'm just saying. Yes, indeed. Thank you.
We've done a lot of shows
We've
together.
done many shows together. God bless you. Thank you, my dear friend.
Thank you.
We will talk to you again. Okay, now it is time for the trivia question. Here we go. Alligators may be distinguished from crocodiles by what? By what? It's simple. The first person to answer correctly in the chat room or calling in will win a fabulous Kong toy. Kong, the only toys and treats you should ever have for your pet because they are indestructible. They are the best. I've got a whole basket full of Kong toys, and my dogs every morning. I squeeze the little squeezy treat in, or I attach the little chewy rings, and they get so excited. You will win a Kong toy or treat. You will also win a jar of Coragem medical ointment for your dog's wounds, for your cat's wounds, for your wounds, and a copy of Gray Stafford's Zoomility, I believe, still signed by the author. I think we still have some of those. So, anyone, how may alligators be distinguished from crocodiles? And I also have news, actually, about one of our sponsors. Recently, Kong took to the Big Apple to make history. At the end of the day, on August 24th, 2013, Kong had set the Guinness World Record for most dog toys stuffed in an hour with the help of the Mayor's Alliance for New York Animals and the shelter volunteers from across the city. They stuffed 1,975 toys with treats in under an hour. My dogs would have lost their mind. I can barely do, because I shove them in good, big. It takes me about an hour to stuff 3. After the event, all of the stuffed Kong treats and toys were donated to local New York dog shelters and dog rescues. Yay! All right. And now we've got Dr. Gray's pet tip. Once again, it is time for one of my personal rave in segments of the show. It's time for Dr. Gray Stafford's Pet Tips. So here we are with pet tips for the 21st century, very evolved pet owner and lover. Welcome again, Dr. Gray. What do you got for us?
Well, I have a confession to make.
Uh-oh.
Years ago, I was not a fan of crating animals, especially dogs and cats. I thought it was confining. I thought it was kind of mean and limiting. And I've had an epiphany over the last 10 years or so. Training your animal and teaching them how to do it properly is an amazing resource for pet owners because it gives you flexibility on what to do with your pet in new situations and even common ones like going to work. So here's how you do it. You want to make sure going in a crate is always fun. So what I like to do is I'll give my dog, for example, a favorite treat. I use boiled beef liver, and I reinforce them and give it to them at the back of the crate, through the little side windows. And I always reinforce at the back of the crate. And this is because I want the animal to always want to go all the way into the crate and not play any games or hesitate at the threshold of the crate.
Right.
So I encourage people to not reinforce or even pay attention to their pet through that magical door once it's closed, because that's where the problem begins. That's where you sometimes see a dog that's getting a little bored or anxious, and they start clawing at the door, and they whine, and I want to get out. Well, we want to avoid paying attention for that kind of anxious behavior, and we also want to remind them that it's okay, we're going to reinforce you way in the back of the crate. Now, let's say you've had them in the crate for a few minutes, and you want to let them back out.
Okay.
Give them a treat at the back of the crate, and then let them out of the crate and ignore them for the next several minutes. We want to make sure we shift all the fun, all the reinforcement, all the praise, all the treats for going into the crate and never for coming out of the crate, because the emphasis always has to be for going in, not for coming out. The reward of coming out of the crate is just being out of the crate.
Sure.
And if you do this over time and always reinforce them with a favorite food treat before you let them out, no matter how long it's been, they'll always want to go back in that crate the next time.
Now, let me ask you a question. Is crating for any age dog? I know it's really kind of one of the more specific uses is that it's for puppies and potty training. But is there a length of time? Can that puppy, when it matures into a full-grown dog, still use the crate, or do you recommend stopping the crate after a certain point, or can it be just like the little nest, the little den for the dog's life?
That's a great question. I actually train my dogs to crate their entire lives. Our German Shepherd, her threshold for crating was up to 10 hours. Now, we didn't do that every day and every time, but that shows you just how reliable she could be if necessary. It was a fun place to be. And the reason I know it was fun for her is I would reinforce her in the back before I would let her out. I'd let her out, and she would come out, say hello to me, and go straight back in the crate, even though she's been in the crate for a few hours. So that's how you know that the behavior is fun for them. It's a place they want to be. The other secret, Carolyn, is at times when I don't need to crate the dogs, I actually close the door and deny them access to their little den as a way of keeping the anticipation, keeping the value for being inside that crate. You know, it's like a favorite toy. If you have access to it all the time, it loses some of its value. So by closing the door strategically throughout the day and evening, when I don't need them to be in there, it helps maintain that value of going inside in the first place.
Fascinating. This is a great tip for me personally, because I'm in the middle of crate training. And listen, Sluggo may have two new homes now, the backyard and the crate. So fantastic. Thank you so much. We are going to talk at you next time. Okay, we are back. We're coming to the end of the show, but first we must do the hero of the show. And the hero of the show today is the city of San Francisco. The entire city of San Francisco is the hero of the show. Why?
Why?
Because San Francisco municipal buildings are going dark to save the birds. Urban lights, especially those found on skyscrapers, often pull migrating birds off course and are blamed for millions of bird deaths a year. A Lights Out campaign to help protect migratory birds from colliding with the city's tallest buildings took flight a few years ago, and it has changed direction this season to focus on municipal buildings. Of the more than 600 city-owned buildings in San Francisco, about 10 are at least 5 stories tall, the minimum height associated with frequent bird accidents. And most have signed on to the Lights Out for Birds campaign. Some 250 species of birds travel the Pacific Flyway, love that, above the Bay Area during fall migration, particularly at night. They navigate by the stars and are often drawn off course by urban lights, resulting in window collisions and tens of millions of bird deaths per year nationwide. A study by the Field Museum of Chicago, which runs a similar conservation campaign, found that migratory bird deaths dropped 80% at a downtown high-rise when it turned off its lights. So yay, we're all sending our hearts, and we're going to leave them in San Francisco. God bless San Francisco. And with that, We come. You notice how I had to read that with my glasses on.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my glasses
Okay.
off. I just look better. And with that, we come to the end of another installment of Animal Magnetism. Thank you so much to my wonderful guests today, Lori Weise and the inimitable Shon Le Blonc. Thank you to my wonderful co-host, Miss Andrea Compton, who also pulls double duty as my producer extraordinaire. Thank you as well to all the other folks who make this show possible. My other producer, Steve Rohr, Dr. Grace Stafford of the Wildlife World Zoo in Phoenix, and vegan chef Maureen Flanagan. And finally to my board operator, the very handsome Jamal. But the most handsome man in radio is Tony Sweet. Thank you, Tony, for allowing me to come on and grace the airwaves. God bless you, handsome thing. We're going to see you again next time. Remember, everyone, the key words: preservation, conservation. Strive always to develop the preservationist heart. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Something tells me it's all happening at the zoo. I do believe it. I do believe it's true.